evening. It's Sunday, February 21st, 1 week past Valentine's Day, but we're going to still be sharing the love with you tonight on the Ken and Glenn Show with a guy named Scott. Here they are, those romantic guys who are a little chilly, too, with what's going on, especially in Dallas, Texas. Please welcome the stars of our show, Ken and Glenn, and me, a guy named Scott. Good evening, guys. What a week you've had, Glenn. Holy cow. It's cold in Columbus, too. So
yeah, I never thought I'd be living in Alaska, but we were this week for sure. I thought you were going to call us little devils. I don't know why, but I just felt like we were now those little devils of love. Here they are.
Yep. That would have been better. Hey, there's Donovan.
Donovan.
Scott, I liked your intro tonight.
Oh, thanks.
Some people wonder, do we work on this show? Well, it's obvious that we don't. But the intro, Scott is just, he's the grand champion because he looks up and one of us will say, hey, it's showtime. And he just goes, he looks over and he looks at the date. Like he goes, okay, it's the 21st. Okay, let's see. That's a week past Valentine's Day. Okay, got it. I'm going to talk about Valentine's Day and the fact that it's a week later and we're still holding the love. Here we go. And boom. And that's the way Scott works.
A true professional.
It's fun.
Well, I don't know about that, but it's good to be here. I've missed you guys this week. I've been wondering about what's going on with you and all our folks that watch us every week. Tammy and I were talking after we got to dinner last week. By the way, oh, yes, and happy anniversary, Ken, to you and Jill.
Thank you.
Happy, brother.
Thank you.
I sent you a happy anniversary.
You did.
Okay, good.
You did. Thank you. Yeah, no, it's 11 years. Jill, I looked at her, I said 11 years of absolute bliss.
Yes, and hopefully it was said in that same loving tone.
I said exactly like that. She goes,
you sound so sincere, honey.
You had to say that when I was taking a sip, didn't you?
I was a bit concerned. She says, you say that every year. I said, I know, because I mean it.
Well, Ken, you and I right now are also in happy anniversary land.
We're getting close. Is it now?
We're very close. We're very close.
It's got to be about right now.
It's in like another week.
Wow, we got
another week. We're at our 1 year anniversary of friendship, and Scott and mine's comes up like 2 weeks later.
Yeah,
right.
No, it was a month or so. Wasn't it?
Like I said, a month later.
I don't remember exactly.
Listen, if you ever don't have enough correction in your life, just become friends with Ken.
That's like it.
The heck?
Last week. No, wait, it was 3 years ago.
Right. Exactly.
Hold on. I got to fix my camera, gentlemen.
Have you heard, Scott, have you ever heard, there are a couple of comedians that will do this. They go, yesterday, for the sake of this joke, and that's when they create the timeline based on the fact that they want to tell a current joke that they've been telling for years. You're back, Ken.
I know. I got to refresh. I'll be right back. You guys hold the fort down.
So I'd like to report that we have exited the Alaskan tundra, and although we've had below freezing temperatures for the longest I think Dallas has ever seen in its history. I know it's tough to get sympathy votes from people in Minnesota and Ohio and Michigan and all of that, but you guys are equipped, for it, and we're simply not, and that's why we've had such devastation here in Texas. But this spell began with the 133 car accident that I talked about last week. Yeah. That's when the spell began, was that day The temperature dropped below freezing. It was 24 degrees most of the day. That accident happened at a time when it was about 20 degrees and it had not begun snowing. That was precipitation from the day before, so it was black ice. Very dangerous stuff. I'm sure most of you know that. If you don't, please don't ever underestimate the hazard of black ice on the road. Ice is so dangerous. So that's where that 133 car pileup in Fort Worth happened. And then the temperatures simply never went up above freezing. And in fact, they went down from there. That was on a Thursday. Sunday, a few days later, is when the snow kicked in. It started snowing on Sunday, and it snowed for several days. And we're just grateful that today was 73 degrees in
That's
Dallas.
insane.
And Dallas has completely thawed out, and it seemed that no one was indoors today.
Oh,
Everyone was so grateful to see the sun again, and it was just cool to see people walking down the street and saying, "Hey, hey, hey, neighbor." It was great.
now, lights are back on everywhere pretty much, or
Yeah, we were very fortunate in that we did not lose our power. So
Oh, good.
we don't, just so you know, nobody needs to check on us. We were very fortunate. My mother did lose her power, and so she brought her dog Zelda, a beautiful black lab, over to the house, which mixes great with 8 cats. And so,
Yeah.
no, it's actually wonderful because Zelda's very used to being here, and we just take all the cats up to the second floor, and we lock them up for several days. But we were able to hang on to power, so my mom was not without it for long at all, because she did come over to be here with us, and I think she was without power in her home for 4 days. But if you have nowhere to go, that's when it gets to be problematic.
I'm going to have to hold this up to the screen. I think this will come through. I've been searching to try to find this because, Glenn, you made me think of this. And let me get this right. See if you can hear it.
Californians who recently moved to Texas, the Department of Tourism wants to welcome you. We might not have the fancy luxuries y'all are used to, like electricity or drivable roads, but there are so many fun things to do in Texas, like foraging for food when the grocery store shut down, bailing water out of your living room when the pipes burst, and moving your family into your car to stay warm. I hope none of y'all are vegan, because if this lasts for a few more days, we'll all be resorting to cannibalism. And don't forget that when this all melts, you need to watch out for snakes and scorpions. We hope you're all feeling good about your decision to move to our great state.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Isn't that great?
That is brilliant. I want to have her on the show.
Yes,
Yeah.
I just thought that was so great. That was so much fun. And I looked up, she lives in Austin, which of course, so many folks from California are moving to Austin, Texas. And I just thought that was a really funny,
That's
funny.
hilarious.
Yeah, there are people in Austin who don't even know what snow is,
Yeah.
and now they do.
That's funny.
Oh, that was so brilliant. I love her writing.
Yeah,
And
that,
even
writing was
the Texas music playing in the background.
the big hair with the cowboy hat. I mean, that was really good.
That is
Hey,
funny.
James.
Hey, James.
James and Jay Fox is in the house. Man, we got a lot of rock stars. Look at this. Greg, Scott Ricard is in the house. Ernest Odell, what's happening? Man,
I saw Jay the first day of the cold. Jay and I got together. We hadn't seen each other in years, and we chose a 24-degree day in Denton, Texas, to meet up for lunch.
wow.
That was great. I was complaining it was cold, and 2 days later it was 6 degrees.
Oh.
So, 24 was what we were rooting for a few days later.
Wow. So,
Rooting for 24 as well, but that's because my friend was on it.
Yeah, thank you. This version of 24 was not nearly as comfortable nor as well paying, I would like to,
Really?
be honest with you.
Oh man.
well, Glenn, I think I told you, I said, dude, I just had this thought, like, I'm sure that builders did not think ahead when they were building homes in Texas, like, hey, there could come a day when we hit 0 And I believe I didn't. Well, I think I was. It was you, right?
Yes.
I said you need to run your water.
Yeah. We actually were hip to that one, but I appreciated the reinforcement.
Yeah.
You know,
It's I know so many people that their pipes froze, and when pipes freeze, that's not good
Not good.
because they
My
expand.
we talked about before we went on the air that just moved in a new house in Addison, not far from you, Glenn. They shoveled snow and filled the bathtubs with snow so that they would have the water to put into the toilets so the toilets would flush,
yes.
which is just
Yes. We were also taught, go ahead and fill your bathtub while the water's still working.
Yeah.
In case the water stops working, you'll have water to flush your toilets with.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep. Wow.
Which
That's
was
crazy.
helpful because 4 of our 8 cats drowned this week. So that was great. So thanks for that tip, whoever offered that.
Oh God.
Which is saving us a fortune in cat food moving
That's it,
forward. So, what are we going to talk about tonight, guys, other than meteorological trivia?
What was it you were talking about right before we were
Talking about giving, man.
Yeah, I love.
But you had a topic that you were talking about, so
Well, we can weave them together.
well, let's weave them together right now. By the way, Ken and I are in a room. It doesn't look like we are, but we are. We are in a lie, in a life as a metaphor is what the room is called, I believe. Acting as a metaphor for life on Clubhouse. And so if any of you have journeyed over from our Clubhouse room to see our show the first time, we welcome you. We've had a number of viewers that have jumped on over the last 7 weeks or so that I've been on Clubhouse. I started on January the 2nd. And it's, Clubhouse has just been remarkable. It's been remarkable for business, remarkable for forming relationships, very stimulating. I had some time online with Scott in a Clubhouse room this week. And boy, you just never know what you're going to get. You're always rolling the dice, but it's fun and I enjoy it. And it's fun to help people.
Did you have any, Scott, just this off the topic, but did you have any cold temperatures out in Vegas or?
Yeah, I mean, it
But not-
was seasonally cold, but it wasn't, anything with what like you guys had to deal with. We got into the 30s, which for here people were.
Yeah,
I mean, I've got this on, and it's 60 degrees here right now. But it's
terrible.
Yeah, but I mean, we'll get ours this summer. So
Yeah, that's true. I had to put my phone in a drawer. Sorry, I couldn't take that.
I just joined your room. Holy cow, you got a lot of folks.
How many are in there?
What is our number right now?
There's a lot in there.
Are we at 100 yet?
Let's see. I don't know that it says while I'm in the room.
You gotta hit the all rooms.
Hey, John Sorsey, nice to see you, brother.
All rooms. You are at 58.
58.
58. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, Glenn, you wanted to talk about helping people, and I watch. Well, no, I listen and participate somewhat in some of these Clubhouse rooms with you, and man, dude, you really do bring. You have this. Agnes, first, I must point out what Agnes is saying about Scott.
It is sexy.
It is.
Ken and I spent the first 3 months of this show reassuring our spouses that we would not leave them for Scott. Just to be clear. So we get it and we agree.
You're so nice, Agnes. Thank you.
But I watch. You have a very unique insight for just about anything that people bring to these Clubhouse rooms. I mean, they could be like, my 8 cats got all drowned in a bathtub, and my 2 dogs got ran over, and Glenn's like, well, and just you have this thing, man, that's amazing because you're able to just you've delivered. I've watched it. I've seen it. It's amazing to watch. So I'm encouraging everyone to follow Glenn on Clubhouse for sure.
Well, I love people. I love life, and I love to help people with life.
Yeah.
I'm fortunate. I am fortunate. I want to say that a second time to reiterate that life and I are buddies. We are friends. And my quote of the week under the heading of ooh, go ahead, Scott. We'll do it early tonight. Or no, we do it at this time every week, don't we?
Every week at 18 after the hour is the
Yeah.
time we play. Ooh, that's just wrong.
So my ooh, that's just wrong this week, and I had a few, but only one that I really want to bother mentioning, is that the quote of my week, and I say this with dripping sarcasm. The quote of my week was, "Hey, you can't just pronoia your way through life."
Oh, jeez.
Okay, that was said to me. I won't get into the whole story, but I will just tell you this.
No, get into
Just
it.
just know this. This is the important takeaway from it. Understand and do not be discouraged by the fact that when you are in sync, when you are in flow, when you are in the zone of positivity, of ease, of connectedness, of feeling good, that even that, yes, even that will piss off somebody. So it comes with the territory that sometimes the condition of extreme joy, and I don't mean the smoke and mirrors version, the facade, I mean the real thing where you're really happy and you have an understanding what has facilitated that joy, right? Consistently over time. Because anything that you've been able to maintain throughout your life is going to leave clues. Just know that. So, what are you maintaining? What are you maintaining? What is your energetic level? What is your level of optimism? What is your level of love? What is your level of income? What is your level? What is your level? What is your level of blank, 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 blank? What is your level of that that's going on? Because that is going to be energized by your opinion of life and your sense of belonging within it. And so someone actually, when I was sharing with the room the meaning of the word pronoia, which we've talked about in here, the opposite of paranoia, and paranoia simply means the belief that the universe conspires against you. This obviously is an opinion held by people who esteem themselves to be victims. And I understand that there are legitimately victims on the planet circumstantially, right? Circumstantially. There are times when things happen and people are indeed victimized. However, the vast majority of those times are self-inflicted. I understand that there are those times which are not, for sure, and I have nothing but endless compassion for those stories. But there are so many times when people's opinion of themselves to be as victims is the very thing that is generating the conditions they feel victimized by. So watch what your thinking is. Watch what your beliefs are. And above all, watch your tonality. We talked about this in the room today, that your tonality is telling a story, right? Does your tonality wear, for example, does it wear defeat? And even go outside of yourself. And if you were a CEO, ask yourself the serious question. And you don't have to ask it in front of people. That's the good news. This is entirely between you and you, which is, would I hire that person? And that person is you. Go outside of yourself. Listen to yourself from 10 feet away. Listen to your tonality. Listen to your optimism or lack of it. Listen to your eagerness or lack of it. Listen to your loving energy or lack of it. And ask yourself, is this who I would hire to represent my company or to be in my talent agency or whatever it is? And then you can depersonalize it and start working on yourself as a science project and just look at the formulas that you're practicing, right? The methodologies. Anyway, just some thoughts about that, guys. I've had a chance to be in service a lot, and I will not be discouraged by the person who greeted my optimism in a sarcastic and demeaning way, because when we left, she got to continue being herself, and I got to continue being myself.
I think though that, and we'll continue with our ooh, that's just wrong. But I'd like to make a point about that particular situation, which I was not there. Had I been there, I think the outcome may have been a little bit different, because homie don't play that shit, and I would have gone probably a little bit off because of our friendship. But
It wasn't necessary, Ken.
I know I get that, but still, I would have, anyway. So, I think though that some people are so programmed by their whatever upbringing, whatever it is. It could be upbringing. We're all programmed as children to believe what we believe as adults, and it's rare that people will question that programming. I mean, really step outside of that programming and go, why do I believe what I believe? And you said this about the old guy in Texas.
Yes.
You were 15, I think.
Let me quote him. I was 14, and what he said was this. He said, son, if you don't know why you believe the things you believe, then son, those are not your beliefs. They're somebody else's.
Exactly.
And it was genius. And I knew it was genius when he said it. I thought, whoa,
Yeah.
like I will carry that for the rest of my life, what you just said to me.
Yeah. But from what you explained to me about that situation, this just sounds like a person who's angry about everything in life, not just you and your pronoia, or they're upset about the way things are going in life, and they have been since they were programmed to believe that. And I don't, and then life always, based on the way that our paradigm is. I'll never forget John Morgan saying, I take 2 dimes and I put them together.
Oh, yes.
And I throw them across the room.
It was a paradigm shift.
That right there was a paradigm shift. But I think that people are just programmed to believe a certain way, and they can't get out of their own way. So they're going to find something wrong with everything somebody says that's positive. And that's all I have to say about that situation.
Well, Scott is physically moving, and I know what that means, because when I see that lava,
he's like, give me the stage, damn it.
That lava is bubbling.
I took a different approach than what you took, Ken, for these reasons. Number one, the person that said it, we were in their room. And, I've always had this feeling that if you've heard me say it here before, if Chevy started running ads saying, if you buy a Ford, you're a freaking idiot, people that drive Fords are not going to go, you're exactly right. I'm a freaking idiot. I better get another car. Instead, They go back into and defend their own position. And I think what you can do is exactly what Glenn did, and that is bring the truth. And when the student is ready, the teacher appears, and the student wasn't ready at that time. And, the thing you do is you give it your best shot and you leave the room. I mean, I don't know what's to be gained by telling somebody in a room that they started that's a bad situation. So, I mean, I understand where you're coming from. I just took a different path simply because I don't know, and I had a lot of other after, and then the weird thing was they ended up bailing and asked me to come back and moderate the room. And I did. And the discussion was, wow, that was strange, and how much they appreciated the positive aspect of it. So
that would have been a cool name for the room. Wow, that was strange.
Yeah, well, you know what? I mean, we need to start a room and name it that.
Wow, that was strange.
Wow, that was strange. Yeah. So, at the end of the day, I don't know if there's a right or a wrong way to handle it. We each have to do what we feel right about. But it's, there are people, and good grief, Ken, you got this exactly right. There are people who not only are negative, but they revel in their negativity. They love their negativity. They want to infect you with their negativity. And, the question is, do you allow them to plug into you and take your energy out, or do you just disconnect? Because I don't have enough positive energy to save all the negative people that are out there. And I think,
well said, Scott. That's good.
And Glenn, what you said too was so important. I mean, it's how we approach this and what our beliefs are. Not this last time, but the time before, when Tammy and I were back in Indiana, we went to the church, and it was a church that friends had told us about. We had never been there before. Well, then come to find out, the minister who was speaking was not the regular minister that was there, that our friends really liked and had told us all about. It was a visiting minister just for the vacation and of the regular minister there. And this person was from Lexington, Kentucky. And he got up with the most incredible opening line that I've ever heard from a minister, particularly a visiting minister, at a church service. And the opening line was, and I'm not saying I agree with the philosophy, but I thought it was a brilliant way to approach it.
But you recognize a great line to be a great
I
line.
recognize a great line. His opening line was, "It's a privilege to be here speaking at your church, but I want to begin by telling you I'm an agnostic." And you could just hear, just the gasps and everything, that somebody would stand in front of the church and say that. And but then his next line was, "And that's why it's called faith. Because if we knew, then it wouldn't be faith. Faith is what we believe." And he went into this whole thing about, have you been courageous enough to challenge your beliefs? Because when you challenge your belief, if it's really what you believe, then that challenge makes it stronger, not weaker. And it was just one of the best messages I have heard. And it really was fascinating to hear someone stand there and say, when he first said, "I'm an agnostic." Well, agnostic doesn't mean you don't believe. Agnostic believes, I don't know. An atheist is who doesn't believe.
Right.
And he said, "And that's why I call it faith, because I believe this." Can I prove it? Well, no, but that's why it's supposed to be called faith. That's why it says, "Believe in me." And I just thought that was really profound and powerful. That's
It brings up the question: did they kill him right then and there, or was it later in the day?
Right.
The reception was canceled on that.
No, but that's bold. Listen, I admire that. I want to chat with that guy, because that is a bold entrance into your talk.
No kidding. I mean, you could hear the gasp. What a way to start the message. So it was just It was pretty terrific.
Wow. So what's your "ooh, that's just wrong," Scott?
Well, I got one.
Do you?
Yeah, because that one was an "ooh, that's just right."
That was just right. May I share with a screen?
Yes,
Good.
please.
Let's do a screen share. I want to show you something here.
Yeah.
Screen sharing, share screen. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, it's asking me to own my system preferences for some reason on this.
Oh, you have to approve it.
I'm sorry. I'm on a different computer tonight.
Ken and Glenn show with Pastor Scott.
With a pastor named Scott.
That's hilarious.
There you go. All right. So I want to just share with you. There's a book that a good friend of mine wrote, and his name is Joe Calloway. And this is a book he wrote a few years back. It's called Indispensable: How to Become the Company That Your Customers Can't Live Without. Isn't that a great title?
Yes,
it is.
Really terrific title. And I want to tell you, it is an absolutely terrific book. So imagine how surprised that Joe was, and that I was as well, to see that there is a new book with this title: Build and Lead a Company Customers Can't Live Without.
Oh man.
Now, here's
Wow.
the reason I'm bringing this up. I mean, first of all, the author of the first book, Joe Calloway, is one of my best friends in the world. Just a fabulous guy. How do you come up now? And I also know legally you can't own a word, you can't trademark a title. You know, if I wanted to come out with a book tomorrow called, you know, Think and Grow Rich, I could, because you can't copyright a title. Now you trademark it. I can't use it in anything that I'm promoting, right? Because it's trademarked. But when it comes to book titles, you cannot. But there's also an ethics there. You know, if it's plagiarism on the inside, then why can't it be wrong to do it on the outside? And secondly, it means that, and I couldn't make this up, evidently the guy copied a title for a book to tell you how to make your business different. You can't make that up. I mean, so either this author was willing to do everything you got to do to write a book, and you guys know it's not easy to write a book or a script or whatever. It's arduous, but didn't take the time to do a Google search to see if there was another book named that. So if he says, oh, I didn't, or he researched it and decided, hey, this guy did this great work 15 years ago. I think I'll just take it, which is like coming in your house and stealing something.
Yeah, I read his second book, Copy Your Way to Uniqueness.
I think he puts the stink in distinction, don't you?
Oh, nice.
Oh wow.
He puts
You
the
know,
stink
it
in
just-
distinction.
Jerry's asked, did you take that personal? Yeah, I did. I took it personally. I took it personally for my business, for my career, that somebody could do that. Look, you know, if somebody tells a joke that I've told, I get that. But if somebody gets something, tells the Taxi Terry story, that you can copyright a story, so I'd sue him. But man, I don't know. I can't wrap my head around that. I mean,
Wow.
either they didn't do the research and accidentally found something that close, which I find hard to believe. It might be out. Or they just decided, I'm going to do this. So either way, I don't know. I've got a problem either way.
I think you may have just set the stage for next week's game called, Ooh, that really pisses me off.
Yeah, right. Oh my God.
Oh, man. I hope Mr. Calloway feels valued by you, that you're kind of giving him some big brother treatment. Like, I got you. I got you. Let me take care of this. I got you.
To Joe's everlasting benefit, and he's just, I can't wait to introduce him to you guys. He's just one of the great guys of the world. He's just kind of like, you know what? If that's what this guy thinks he has to do to sell some books, I'll stand mine up against his any day. And he's not as mad about it as I am. I'm mad about it because it's a friend, but I'm also upset about, I mean, hey, look, who among us has not made mistakes? I'm not saying that, but I think the ethical aspect of this. I mean, if no one stands up for doing it the right way, then pretty soon everybody feels the wrong way is okay. So this is wrong. Comedians shouldn't still and are really jumped on for stealing jokes of other comedians. I wouldn't.
Wow.
If we've seen a lot of movies that are derivative of other films, but there are points of uniqueness. I mean, I'm not going to do an action movie and call it Die Hard, for God's sake. I mean,
for my new book, See You at the Top with Distinction, probably won't go over well.
Right. Especially since you've authored it as Ken McCain, you might want to not do that either. In the poker world, we call that a tell.
A tell. I love
That's funny.
big. It should be See You at the Middle. It's a bigger market. It's so much bigger market.
Such a
Yes,
big,
caters to a lot more people.
Come on, caters to a bigger audience. See You in the Middle. That's
oh my God. That's so I can't even believe like that would really, really, really piss me off. That would do it.
Ken, I want to hear yours, and then I'm going to use what we've been talking about as a segue into something else, but not until you've shared your That's Just.
Mine again has something to do with a restaurant. There's a little restaurant here where in the little town we live in, and Eric Cornelius said, "I'm writing a kid's book, Blue Eggs and Ham."
Yes.
Oh my God. But you know, there's this restaurant that we prior to COVID, we would go in maybe once or twice a month, and great service. And but when COVID hit, they decided that they were going to they were just going to do carry out, and so we did about 5-6 months ago. We ordered something, and my wife ordered it, and she went to pick it up and literally sat in their line. They have a drive up window for about 30 minutes, and then she got to the window and had an exchange with this woman that essentially told my wife that she was lying, like literally almost said you're a liar. and so Jill's like, listen, my wife is a very, very, very intelligent woman, and she knows how to craft a message. And so she crafted a letter to the CEO, the owner of the company, and they have like 6 locations. I won't call them out publicly, but they have 6 locations. And she sent this letter. He lives close to Michigan, which could be part of the problem. I'm just kidding. That's an Ohio, Michigan thing. Anyway, yeah. So anyway, he was super, super nice, wrote her a letter back saying, this is not how I founded this company. That's not the way we treat our customers, and et cetera, et cetera. Gave her 4 coupons worth $5 each. So $20 off. And please give us another try. I'm sorry, we dropped the ball this time. So yesterday we went out the night before for our anniversary dinner. And then yesterday was our anniversary. And I'm like, hey, do you want to just order something from so-and-so and give them another shot? And we'll just, she's like, yeah, let's do that. So she orders, and she goes there and waits 35 minutes. First they said it's going to be ready at 6:30, 5:30. She gets there at like 5:30 on the money, waits behind a car for 15 minutes, calls the restaurant and says, hey, I'm in line behind this car. Any chance you could go ahead and bring the food out? Oh, we're waiting on a couple more things. We'll run it out as soon as it's ready. She waited 35 minutes, pulls up, and not an apology for your wait, nothing. She said, is this the right stuff on top? And the woman looks at her and goes, I was on the phone with her, like going, I can't believe this is happening again. And she's like, and so I hear this woman, my Jill says, is this the extra sauce stuff that we ordered? And the woman says, I didn't bag it. I can go find out if you want me to. What
I love the if you want me to.
If you yeah, I didn't bag it. I can go find out if you want me to. And Jill's like, no, never mind. Not in nothing. Like, and so I got on Facebook. I left him a really nice review. I said, look, how do you expect? And I understand the owner. I get it because I'm an owner. I get it when employees screw up. But here's what you do. When shit is hitting the fan and things are going wrong in your company, and it's a handful of people that are doing it, and you can't be there all the time. I mean, it's a big restaurant. I don't know what, I'm sure it does $1 million a year, I would think, out of each location. And you got to show up and get rid of people and hire people that are you got to it starts at the top. It starts with the top management and it trickles down from there. And I don't know why people don't get that. Like, that's not sustainable.
Well, that's why so many companies fail, Ken.
I Circuit City. I think we even talked about it before, right? I mean, there's a whole gaggle of examples, but you know, like, it's crazy because it crushes me, because I know I read this owner's letter. I know this dude's heart is right, but man, maybe Scott, you know what? Maybe I should say, hey, I know a guy you need to hire to come in and kick your freaking company in the ass, because it's crazy.
It is
blows
crazy.
me away.
See, and one of the problems is the guy's heart may be in the right place, but his actions aren't.
Right.
And I talked about this in my last book. The problem is customers only judge us from two perspectives: promise and performance.
Yep.
That's all there is. What did you promise me that you were going to do? And did you do what you said you would do when you said you would do it? That's it. Those are the two things. So they promised you, show up there at this particular time and we'll have your meal ready. And they didn't deliver. Not only did they not deliver, then and that's another thing in the book, is so many leaders do something to placate the customer. He wrote a really nice letter. He sent you coupons. He took care of Jill. He didn't fix the problem.
Exactly.
Problem. And if you fix the problem, then you don't create more Jills, you know, that you've got to send stuff to, that you've got to put, but they just want to make it nice with their customer. Let's just, you know, and part of the reason they do that is so that you won't leave that, you know, that bad review online. And this is what other business people can't get their heads around. Used to be, if you pissed off a customer, hey, we'd tell each other, we'd tell our friends. Now you can get on Google, now you can get on Yelp, and you can influence the buyer behavior of thousands of potential customers. And they just don't, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of business people that just don't get the world has changed. The customer has more power than they've ever had, because the megaphone they have is infinitely larger.
It's insane. And I, you know, of course I'm reading through a few of the reviews before I wrote my scathing review. And it was like, there were people on there going, wow, my husband and I were wanting to try this restaurant out, but after reading all of these negative reviews, I think we'll pass, is what one of them said. And it's like, you're bleeding cash, dude. You got to do something about it. You cannot ignore that.
Right. How are we skewing on Yelp, by the way, with the Ken and Glenn show with a guy named Scott?
We're up to a 1.7 star rating now. So
nice.
We're coming back. We're making a comeback.
Well, and Troy's got a great question. Yeah, and Dennis, boy, that's such a great point.
That's true.
Yeah.
How many just say I'm never going there again, period?
My old boss on radio used to talk about, I mean, this is a million years ago, but he used to talk about, you know, if you got a call requesting a song, you can believe there's, you know, X number of multiples of people that want to hear that song, but didn't pick up the phone and call it. I think the same story. Right. But to Troy's point, you know, customers don't want you to make it right. They want you to get it right.
Yes.
Making it right only happens when we didn't get it right. And so what we have to do is to get it right. And if you're not doing what it takes to make the process right, so you repeatedly get it right, the challenges that you're going to face as a business are insurmountable.
That's so
By the
true.
way, Justin is double dipping tonight as both an audience member and a moderator for us in the other room. I don't know if he's still moderating, but last we heard, Justin was left behind to moderate, and now he's in here. I swear, I just got this belief that Justin has several clones that are all over. There is no way one man could be as omnipresent as Justin Benton, because everywhere I am, Justin is. I mean, he can be describing the weather in his backyard, and we see him live, and it's nighttime. Here's how I know he has clones. It's nighttime in Texas. The sun has not yet set in California. We see him there. He's outdoors. It's daytime. it's clear that he is somewhere west. Even if he's lying about California, he's west of me where the sun is still up. And yet, I get in my car, I go anywhere, and Justin is there.
It's everywhere.
If I go to Costco, if I go to the bank, wherever I go, Justin's like, "What's up, dude?"
What's up,
I'm
dude?
like, "I just saw you in the daytime in California."
Oh, that's funny.
Are you still in the room,
He
Justin?
has multiple devices. That's awesome.
Hey, Scott, I want to circle back. I mentioned sometimes, please know that I'm entirely listening. If you see me feverishly writing down, that is in lieu of interrupting, which is never appropriate. So, something you say will get my attention, either one of you, and I will write down something to bring up later in the show. And regarding this person and their plagiarism, right, of the book title, and perhaps even the content. Have you even looked at it? I mean, is the content strikingly similar? Did he steal out of that as well?
I would appreciate your insight on this. I'm torn. There's a part of me that wants to get the book and read it to see how close it is.
Sure.
Because I certainly wouldn't want to accuse anyone of something,
Right.
Look, sometimes we do the wrong thing, but we don't know it, and that could be a case here. But I'm torn. There's a part of me that wants to get the book and read it and just see how close the content is inside. And there's another part that doesn't want to put, $10 in this guy's pocket and rewarding.
Well, yeah, if it takes $10 to do that, I wouldn't bother.
26, in fact. But
Yeah.
Oh, $26. Well, then don't. Certainly, if you weren't going to do it for 10, this is something my mama told me years ago. She said, "Son, if you weren't going to do it for 10, you damn sure don't want to do it for 26."
Yeah. Oh my God.
I heard the joke though about the guy that's standing in the public restroom and he drops a $10 bill in the toilet. And he stands back and looks at it and he reaches in his wallet and throws a $100 bill in the toilet. The guy says, "What in the world is wrong with you?" He said, "Man, I ain't going in there for a 10.
Right. Yeah, there it is.
Oh my
There
God.
you go.
I want to circle back to this idea of plagiarism, and I'm working on a third book, which is entirely my own now. I've been a part of 2 collaborative efforts as an author, but this is my baby, and it's a long time coming. I've been writing this for years. Started writing the book 12 years ago. Clearly, I was in no hurry. And what I'm doing is I'm writing life lessons as they show up, the ones that I find to be really not the most rare, but actually the most common, because then they will become everyday lessons where I know as I read them, wow, don't we all face this kind of thing? And so my working title right now is called "If I'd Only Known." If I'd only known. And the idea here is to go into the mind of the reader and hopefully give them something to think about. And that thought is this: if you had known the full extent of the consequences of doing that thing, whatever that thing is, or the consequences of running that thought, would you have done it?
Mhm.
And the answer is 99% of the time, the answer is going to be no. And so there is a colossal, if you will, grotesque underestimation, not an overestimation, but an underestimation of what's really going on when we do fill in the blank. In this case, I want to highlight lying. And if we could put a camera down into our beingness and photograph what occurs at a molecular level when we do things we know better than. In other words, we tend to take it a little bit too lightly and we go, well, I knew better, but yeah, whatever. And it becomes very common, which, by the way, the commonality of something never made something okay.
Mhm.
I don't think we should base what is okay and not okay by how often it occurs. It is possible for all of us to take a stand and not base our opinions in life on what's popular. Doing the right thing might not always be the popular thing nor the easiest thing. In fact, a lot of times doing what's right is the harder thing in the micro, but in the macro, it's certainly the wiser thing to just do the right thing. But I just want to throw that out there, that even lying is something, and I've never met a person, myself included, who not only hasn't lied, but who hasn't told multiple lies. You know, I've been coaching about lying for years, and that we've all done it. I ask for a show of hands, you know, and it's always 100%, always, no matter how large the audience is. And even when you change it to lies, plural, it doesn't change. It's still every hand up there. But just because we've done it in the past doesn't mean that we can't set aside a week, let's just say a week, to actually track how often we lie, with no exceptions, even looking at the little bitty ones, what we call the white lies. And I think probably we are at our optimum level of efficiency. And I'm throwing this out there for discussion. If we begin systematically downsizing, listen very carefully, the number of people that are in our life that only stay in our life if we lie. That's the only way we're able to maintain their permanence in our life, is to live a certain facade or not speak up about certain things, because after a while, that takes its toll.
True.
On all of us. If we're constantly having to alter our story, and when we see dysfunctional family systems that thrive in this kind of environment, where the only way a child can handle being in the family is by violating him or herself. And then it grows up and it becomes a habit, where we realize, and we see this in groups like, it could be even our tribe here. It could be in Clubhouse, where we're seeing this thirst, and what the thirst is for, this mad, seemingly insatiable thirst to be loved as you are, right? Your truth. And people have been waiting to tell their truth their whole lives, to be loved and valued and appreciated for a sense of enoughness, without having to massage or alter their story in order to gain acceptance or maintain acceptance. If you're part of a family system that knows you to be a certain way, and that's just Ken, that's just Scott, that's just Glenn, that's who Glenn is. And the problem is, as long as they maintain that chronic opinionitis, it can energetically hold the person who wants to change in place. Now, it's still going to be up to the person to make a decision and create an override and say, look, my desire to change and to honor my integrity and stand for who it is I really am, and not who it is you want me to be, but I'm really going to take that stand, then my need to be truthful in this moment is going to have to supersede your need for me to be inauthentic. Is this making any sense?
Yeah, and I have something to add to it.
Because, man, I am passionate about this topic, because I see so many, and I'll close with this, Ken. I see so many people who are violating themselves by, I'm going to alter my story here, I'm going to alter it a little bit here, I'm going to massage it a little bit here, I'm going to make it more appealing here, I won't mention that with him, I will mention that with her, I will, and all of a sudden you realize you are everybody's opinion of you, except your own. You don't even know who you are, because you've never taken a stand for you. And let the chips fall where they may. I'll close with this, your inauthenticity, whoever I may be speaking to tonight, and it may be all of us, our inauthenticity is costing us, which is why I'm writing a book called If I'd Only Known, because I want everyone to be able to make contact with themselves later in their life, using their imagination to say, how okay are you going to be with facing the truth that you altered the entire story just a little bit here and a little bit there? And how many people really got to know who you really are in your lifetime? Go ahead, Keno. Sorry. Thanks for giving me the time, gentlemen, to be passionate about that. But it's a very big deal to me.
First, I would say to anybody listening who has fallen into the trap of what you're talking about, and that is living a life of lies, there is a way out. And there is a way through it, and you can live a different life, because I've lived it. I was taught, and I will not go into details live on the air, but I was taught as a child not to talk about things that were happening in my life as a child. Mm-hmm. And so, in other words, I was taught you better lie if you know what's good for you. And so the truth didn't come out. And then I became a raging alcoholic. And man, I went through a lot of stuff. And I remember when I first went to Alcoholics Anonymous, I remember sitting in this meeting, and this guy, I'll never forget him. Hilarious. Absolutely just freaking hilarious. Dude was, I don't know, 20 years sober at the time, and just a goofball of a guy, and fun and funny. And somebody brought up, how do you, now that I am in the spiritual recovery group, how do I forgive myself for all of the lies and deceit and the horrible things that I've done? And this guy said, before I got sober, I was a drunken horse thief. He said, now I'm just a horse thief.
Horse thief, yes.
He said,
I've heard that one.
He said, today I am as honest as my dishonesty will allow me to be. And I truly, I look back and I go, holy crap. God the presence of a power greater than me, and I don't care how you define it, I define it as God. God was there showing me the whole way, like, okay, dude, here, let me show you. So here I am, about 2 years sober, and I was in between. It's a long story. I worked for a company, and I sold bathroom remodeling, and I remember I was on this lead with this guy that it was the second home that he owned that he was given to his daughter and her child, and he wanted to have the bathtub all redone, and so I gave him a price. And I think I've talked about this before, but I gave this guy a price, and I found out prior to this that he was a psychiatrist. And I said, so a psychiatrist, not a psychologist? Psychiatrist, yes. And okay. So I find out that he's a psychiatrist, and we're standing in the bathroom. I give him the price after I measure everything, and he goes, okay, now I want you to give me your best price. I said, I just did. You get 10% off while I'm here. If I have to come back, you don't, because the company saves money and gas and time and appointments. You get 10% off while I'm here. He goes, okay, now I'd like you to stop lying to me and tell me the truth. And I said, sir, I am not lying. And he said, it's okay. You are, and it's okay. Just give me the best price. Tell me the truth. I said, and he was significantly smaller than me. And I thought about whooping his ass for a second. I thought, no, I probably won't keep my job if I do that. So I said, I'm not lying to you. That's the best price I can give you. And he said, listen, let me help you with something. Every human being on this planet lies. Every single human being alive lies. They do every single day. They always have, and they always will. So it's okay. I'm not excusing lying, but it's okay. I don't want you to get so defensive, because he could tell I was getting worked up. I know you can't imagine me worked up, but I was.
No, but if you'll give me a minute, I'd like to go there. Just trying to imagine it.
Yeah. So he said, if you told yourself the truth about everything going on around you, you would go stark raving mad instantaneously. We have to lie to ourselves. If you were truthful about with everything happening around you at all times. And he started naming examples, and I can't remember all of them, but I'll never forget that moment when he said, now he wasn't excusing lying. He said, but we have to lie to ourselves.
Thank you, Ken. I've been having trouble tracking where you were headed.
Well, he just said that the things that we're experiencing at all times in our lives, we cannot tell the truth about it to ourselves consciously, or we would go crazy. So, look, all I know is this.
How much did you cut the price? That's what
I called my manager and got him another 10% off. I was telling the truth. I couldn't give him.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
I had to make a call to give him a better price. So,
Okay, all right, okay.
So, but again, I think that coming from a life of living in a total lie my entire life up until the point, I mean, obviously there were times of truthfulness in my life, right? I'd be probably dead, but I was constantly lying about my alcoholism, my relationships, my friendships, my everything in my life. When I finally got sober and I said, okay, now I got to look at me. I got to take a really, really, really deep look at me. And man, what I uncovered was that all of that, the just all the BS that I lived for so many years. And then I had to do the repairing of all of that. So anyway, yeah.
Did you feel that lying was a byproduct of your addiction, or is it possible to get addicted to lying?
I think it's probably possible to get addicted to lying, but I wasn't addicted to lying. I heard a guy, he was a Kentucky state senator, or a senator.
Wait a minute, a politician lied.
No. This guy was in recovery. One of the most amazing people I've ever known in my life. And he says, we've often heard it said that the disease of alcoholism wants to kill you. It wants to kill you. And he said, here's my take on that. My take on that is my disease really doesn't give a shit if I live or die. It just wants another drink. And for the first time ever in my life, boom, a light bulb went on. I was like, oh my God, he's right. Because I always struggle with that. I don't know about this third party disease thing that's part of me that wants to kill me. That doesn't make sense. But when he said it just wants another drink, that I get. So the lying part was literally like, I would lie to an ex-wife or girlfriend about whatever. I'd intentionally pick a fight just so I could go somewhere and have a drink, or 10 or 20. I would make up lies about whatever I had to lie about just so I could get another drink. So it was getting to the root of that. It wasn't the lying itself wasn't the real problem. The real problem was all the other stuff that caused that to make me want to drink and anesthetize everything in life, so to speak.
You said something and I wrote it down when you did.
I saw you write it down.
Yeah, I didn't want to misquote you, but did you know that that's what I was doing? That I was
I
writing
knew you
down
were writing something. I said.
Yeah, so I was writing down what you said because I'm going to include it, but only in every Extra Mile talk I give for the rest of my life. Okay.
Wow.
No, it was that big.
Wow.
And it brought me to tears, to be honest with you, as I was writing it down, because here's what you said. You said that you had always been taught, you better lie if you know what's good for you. And I thought, wow, that's exactly inverted. The truth is, you better lie if you know what's bad for you.
It's true.
That actually would have been the more accurate teaching. You better lie if you know what's bad for you, because it's just, I understood what you were saying about going crazy, but all I can tell you is this. We're all members of the Liars Club. We've all been there. However, what I will tell you is I've discovered for myself, and I'm only speaking for me, I'm not speaking for anybody else,
Right.
but there is an incongruency that appears that I'm not okay with within me.
Yeah.
I'm not okay with it. I don't like the way it feels. Therefore, I've learned to identify it on the horizon, thank God, and looked at it. And this is it. This is the very reason that four-tiered decision making, 4 levels of decision making, meaning what do I want? What do I want most? What outcome do I want? And what outcome do I want most? That's where it was birthed. And so now I skip the first 3 and cut right to what outcome do I want most. And what I come up with every time is the outcome I want most is a constant sense of personal peace. When it has anything to do with how I'm treating my own tender life, that I'm not okay with signing up for things that violate my sense of personal peace. And it is really that important to me. So I watch out for things, and it can come down to, guys, something as simple as telling someone in traffic, or just say, the traffic's been pretty bad. I'll be there in 5 minutes. Okay. Oh, I like that. Was that Dennis that just said that?
Yeah.
The truth about lies. I love that, Dennis. Thank you.
Great line, Dennis.
I love that.
And I really love that. And we can talk more about that. I don't like that one. I love that one. The truth about lies. So, for example, just let me pontificate for just a moment. So when we're in traffic, or excuse me, when we're on the cell phone, and this is a very common, what we call a white lie, and you tell someone that I will be there in 10 minutes, which, by the way, means 17, and it's not 10. So the first thing is just to massage their irritability by lying with your guesstimation. But then the secondary lie of traffic's really bad. No, here's what the reality is. I left late and I'm sorry. I didn't leave early enough. That's the truth. So instead, we concoct this story, which I've gotten away from that. And what I'm telling you is how great it feels to get away from that, despite how typical it is, because I know it's typical, but it feels beyond typical. And it feels wonderful to catch yourself and state the truth, or don't send the text. If you're going to have to lie about the fact that, traffic's taking whatever, because when we do that at a metabolical level, and what launched this, Scott, specifically, is that this person who plagiarized the title and the book, this person who did it, what I know, and I'm going to speak from knowing this and not just theory, what I'm knowing about this person is that cannot equal a great life. It can't. It can't, because he knows. And by the way, that's the most important witness. The most important witness to our own behavior is us, because at the end of the day, we're the one that's going to have to live with it. I mean, you might live with some irritation over it on behalf of your friend. Your friend might get really pissed off about it and live with it for a few months or possibly a year in a court case or whatever. But the person who did it and knows they did it, they're living with that knowingness every day. And at a metabolical and molecular level, it is setting up their life. I'm going to put it in very, very small words. It is setting their life up to not work, to not work. And when we set our life up to work, this goes back to Dr. David Hawkins, who said that every action we take either contributes or contaminates. So stealing someone else's book, I'm sorry, that will never in any universe be a contribution. That is a contamination. It's a contamination to the author. It's a contamination to the world. And so don't be surprised to the person who did this. Don't be surprised if other areas of your life suck in response to that, right? So to believe that we can do that thing over here but then have everything else be fine, is to also believe that there's such a thing as a designated peeing area in a swimming pool, right? That's not the way it works. If you're going to urinate anywhere, you're urinating everywhere.
Well, a mentor of mine used to talk about integrity and said, and I've mentioned this before, it's like pregnancy. You can't have just a little bit. I'm going to have integrity here, but I can not play by the rules over here. Right. It doesn't work that way. You either have it or you don't. And I know, and I know there are times that we have all fallen short of that standard.
I raise my hand first,
but I know what my goal is, and I know where my heart is, and I get disappointed in myself when my actions don't match my values. But you want that to be a rare occurrence, right? You want that to be the exception, not the rule. And I think that's where we get into problems here. And again, I mean, I don't know the person that did this. I don't know. I didn't mean to make it a huge issue. It just kind of irritates me for my friend, but it irritates me for life in general. That if, gosh, I wish I could remember it exactly. Glenn, maybe you do. The thing about the guy wrote in Germany, and he said, first they came for the Jews, but I wasn't a Jew, so I didn't say a word. Then they came for the shopkeepers, but I didn't own a shop, so I didn't say a word. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak up.
Right.
And I've never heard that. I mean, I get it.
I didn't get that exactly right, but
I've never heard that.
But
wow.
Right. So the reason I want to say something is not, not to point a finger at one individual necessarily, but to really say that, I could not agree more with what you guys are saying. I mean, one of the things in my pal Larry Winget brings this up, and I agree so much. A pet peeve of mine has become when people say, "Oh, but that's not who I am."
Yeah, it is.
It absolutely is who you are.
Yeah, it is.
It might not be who you want to be, but if that's what you did, it's who you are. And
or it's certainly who you were 30 minutes ago when you did it.
Before you got caught, right? It's like, or the organization. Ken, I would bet dollars to donuts that the restaurant owner that you were talking about says in there, that's not who we are. We are not that kind.
Yes.
Right? That's not who we are.
Now we're rolling.
Who you are. It may not be who you want to be, but it's exactly who you are.
Yeah.
And so if you don't get that right, I mean, our actions, again, it's promise and performance. If our performance isn't equal to our promise, we're a fraud. There's an example that I use, and I'll tell you off air who I'm talking about, but I've described the guy who will promise the moon, and then once he gets you to sign, doesn't give a damn about what he delivers.
I know some people like that.
And I in the category I put in the book, that's a fraud. That is a fraud. A fraud is somebody who will say anything to promise to get you to say. And if we don't speak up about that, and by the way, that person right now, how many people do you know that won't do business with them anymore because everybody gets what's going on, And at the end of the day, I mean, is that the legacy that we want? Is that the legacy that we want for our kids? I knew your mom, I knew your dad. Yeah, well, no, they were frauds. That's not. The ripple effect is incredible.
I got to add to this, Scott, because I want to say something that it literally, it chokes me up on the inside, because I like I said, I lived the life of dude. When I in my 20s, I made so much money. I thought I was Elvis. I would intentionally lie and start fights and end up on a trip to Vegas, or end up in bars, I was literally out of my mind. And I, for the longest time, and I'm telling you, I've been sober 18 and a half years, and it's still rears its ugly head, where I question myself, like, okay, I lived for so long in that state of just lying that I question whether or not anything I ever did or said or believed or spoke of, or I question whether or not I was any good at all. Like I question my very existence. And again, back to
what did you come up with when you questioned it, bud?
Back to what my one sponsor said to me. He said, and I'll leave the F bomb out, but he used the F word as an adjective. He said, "Put the effing ball bat down. Stop beating yourself up." Mm-hmm. There has to come a point where we forgive ourselves. And because what happens is, I truly believe that the people like I don't know, maybe the guy you were just talking about, Scott, or the guy that owns the restaurant, at some point you've got to get out of denial. At some point, the lies have to stop. They will come to an end. Like the lies will catch up, and you've got to change. You have to change. There has to be a new year, a new you. There has to be a newness that comes about. And for me, the only way that I could get there was only one way, because I did everything in my power to forgive myself, to be a better person. I wanted that. I wanted to be that. I was now away from the alcohol. I'd removed that from my life and my system. Now what? Now I got, you remove the alcohol from an alcoholic, you still have all the ick that you have to deal with. And I had all that shit to deal with. And it took me years. I mean, years. I'm telling you, anybody, if you're an alcoholic right now and you have an intent to get sober, it really is an amazing life once you finally stop. But the first 5 years suck. At least they did. Well, they do for most people. Because it's like, oh my God, I have to deal with all of this crap. Sober is an acronym for son of a bitch, everything's real. And so now I had to deal with all this stuff. And the stuff was all of the bullshit that I had done previously with all of the lies and the behavior. Pardon my language. I'm feeling a little passionate about this. But it wasn't until I prayed over and over and over and over. And I know that I don't need to pray the same prayer, but I did anyway, for me, not for God, but for me. And that was, please help me forgive myself for this, for everything I've done wrong. We have Dr. Wayne Dyer in the house with us.
I just thought I'd go for Wayne. Look,
Dr. Dyer, you grew a beard. That's awesome. But it's the forgiveness of and then changed behavior. So, hey, sign this agreement and we're going to do A, B, C, and D for you. And then do A, B, C, D, and E, and F, and G. Under promise and over deliver. So anyway, that's, yeah.
Hey, can we take a look at some of the comments? Scott, go ahead, whatever you were going to say, but then let's take a look at some of the comments and not leave our family out to dry here.
People have been noticing I've been looking away. I have a couple of times because Tammy is back in Indiana and our third grandbaby is due at any moment.
Oh, congratulations, brother.
No news yet, but look at that. But Tammy went to church with her younger son today, back in Indiana, a new church that he's going to. And small church, hasn't been around that long. And the minister mentioned that he is a former alcoholic and felon.
Wow.
So afterwards, Tammy is talking to him because he's really having an impact on my stepson, her son's life. And she said, what's the hardest thing to convince addicts and the people here that you're doing outreach to? And he said, oh, that's easy. That what you have been doesn't dictate who you're going to be.
Amen.
Right? And isn't that beautiful? Now,
that is true.
And I want to make sure, and that's why I wanted to say that, particularly because when it, as I said earlier, when someone says, "Oh, that's not who we are," it is who you are. But it doesn't mean it's who you have to continue to be.
Continue being.
Right.
Amen, dude.
And whether we're talking about a business that gives bad service or an individual dealing with incredible challenges, whether it's addiction or your other aspects of your personal life, it doesn't mean it's who you have to be.
Yeah.
We read that one, Scott.
Oh, Megan, I'm so sorry. My ex was a dry drunk. The 5 years you just pointed out is interesting. He remained sober for 3 years, and I believe it's for the reason you mentioned. It required him to look at himself and go to work. He was unwilling to do that and went back to drinking.
It's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's significantly hard work.
Yeah.
Let's read several more, Ken, if we can.
The past does not equal the future. It's never too late to have a happy childhood.
Come on with it. Come on with
that's
it,
the
Dave.
other thing. And I was going to say this to something the other day in Clubhouse, and I never got around to saying it.
Well, you'll get to say it tonight as soon as we go back.
No matter how many times we relive the past mistakes, no matter how many times we relive it, it's never going to get better. It's never, ever, ever going to get better if you're reliving a past mistake. And that, I believe, is what keeps people right where Megan is talking about. Instead of seeking the forgiveness of look, a friend of mine said it, man, like the hardest thing to do is to forgive ourselves for the crap that we've done. It's the hardest thing to do. I could forgive Scott. I could forgive Glenn. I could forgive, but forgiving myself is very, very, very difficult to do, if not impossible. And that's where the power of a higher power comes in my belief. So Joan says, you guys are on fire tonight. Thank you for all of
Hi,
this.
sweet Joan. Mwah, to you, darling.
Joan's amazing.
Guys, what I was referring to are even these just mindless, unnecessary, not that lies are ever necessary, but I'm saying the really unnecessary, like why would you lie? I mean, at least if you're going to lie, and I'm not suggesting lying ever, but at least have some sort of motivation. But just when you're telling people stuff that there's no gain, there's no reason, and you're going, knock it off. And one of the reasons I think that people enjoy having me in their life is I don't require them to lie in order to gain membership.
Right.
In fact, I would prefer that they not. Like, just be in your truth. Be in your truth, and we'll call it good, because we've all made colossal errors. So it's okay. I mean, take a number. We all have that in common, but couldn't we move forward differently? And I would strongly suggest that that when we start taking a look at that and start owning our behavior, which I know Ken talks a lot about that, and I couldn't agree more, then we all of a sudden don't send these texts that are not the truth. They're just not the truth. And if you say you're going to be somewhere in 5 minutes, let it be 5 minutes. And if you're saying I'm stuck in traffic, that's not a translation for I left my house way too late.
Right.
Because you're not stuck in traffic. So if you're going to tell somebody that, then that is breaking you down in ways you're not even aware of. And that's what I'm trying to suggest is that you can say it's harmless. I'm here to tell you otherwise.
I agree.
It's not harmless. It's actually doing you damages to send out those texts that say I'm stuffing traffic when you're not. So I'm going to suggest this. Here's your homework this week. Leave the house earlier. Then you won't have to lie your way through texts.
That's right.
I mean, I'm serious. I don't want anybody telling me a lie. I don't want anybody telling me a lie. I just know that if you're a friend of mine, don't feel you need to lie. If you've got a lie you'd like to clean up with me, if I've got something I need to clean up with you, let's clean it up and let's move forward. But please don't feel that you need to lie for shame reason or to uphold your image with me. You wouldn't want me to think poorly of you. I don't think poorly of you any more than I think poorly of me. And I've made big, big mistakes in my life. The biggest mistake, and the only real mistake, is when we don't learn from the choices we've made that didn't work. And I want you to hear the difference, right? It's just something we chose to do that didn't work. And we've evaluated why it didn't work. And maybe the primary reason it didn't work is because it was incongruent with that which we are. It disagreed with our soul. And we thought, you know what? No more. And it's not, we're not going to preach to the world about don't do that thing or whatever. We're going to preach to ourselves and say, that thing and me, we don't belong together.
Right.
We don't belong together. I'm now officially unwilling to be its dance partner. My heart is too pure for that. So I just want to throw that out there. And that goes for you too. You already both know that about me. You will never need to lie. You will never need to do something to maintain an image. You will never need to pretend to be stronger than you are. You won't need to do anything. Just be you and you will be loved. In fact, it'll be a pleasure to love you that much more because you're standing in your truth.
Yep.
And I will make you the same promise that I will only and always stand in my truth.
I want to talk about this real quick that Ernest said. How do you forgive someone who's not asked for your forgiveness? And I want to say this because this is one of the most important. This is, I think, the most important pathway to freedom and happiness and joy. And we've all heard the old cliche that having a resentment is like taking poison, expecting the other person to be harmed. Mm-hmm. We don't forgive someone because they asked for forgiveness. We forgive someone for us, for our well-being, not for theirs. And a byproduct of that is that it does end up eventually healing that other person, or they get their promotion to the other side. But we don't forgive. Forgiveness is a selfish act. It really is. It's for our well-being. Do you guys agree or not?
Oh, 100%.
Totally agree. Yeah. But anger is the only acid that eats the vessel holding it.
Right. Yes. I love that.
Yes.
I've heard you say that before, Scott. I love that.
It's so true. And I mean, when we forgive others, we make it that you said it perfectly, Ken. I mean, we don't do it for them. We do it for us.
Have you guys heard this description of forgiveness? Because it's certainly the one that spun my propeller, which is forgiveness is the scent the rose petal leaves upon the heel that crushed it.
Yeah. Yep. I love that.
Wow.
That's one of those stoppers where you go, and scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because what else can you say? And if we got enough love in us, then when we get stomped on by a circumstance, then what comes out of us is our love, our fragrance of love. And that's what gets on their heel. And it's okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more, though, Ken, about forgiveness.
This whole conversation's making me want to go back and read There's a Spiritual Solution to Every Problem by Dr. Wayne Dyer. And maybe it's the hat.
Probably was the hat.
What's that called? It's what's that type of hat called?
This is called a a lot of people call them director's caps, but there's a French term for it also.
Yeah.
Scott, what do you call this kind of hat?
It's so funny. I always thought of it as the Payne Stewart hat, the golf hat. But I can't think what chapeau. There's something chapeau.
Yeah, it's a French name.
Yeah, yeah. And
some people down here, they call it a beanie. When you're in Texas, they just say, "Get that French-looking beanie off your head and get a cowboy hat like you're supposed to have, son."
Ain't no it's a Yankee hat. What's wrong?
Yeah, what are you doing down there?
Yeah,
who are you, Payne Stewart or what? You're talking about Payne, but now you're acting like Payne.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Wow. There's Lyndon Crane. Hey, Lyndon, good to see you, young man.
But by the way, I want to mention.
Is it a beret?
Yeah, it's a beret.
Isn't it a well? No, a beret is a little bit different.
Yeah, beret is just a round with a little.
Yeah, the round thing with the little stem on it.
Yes, Dan.
Joan said, a
That came
hat.
from Carolyn, so you guys can tell Carolyn that she was close, but no cigar.
What were you going to mention, Scott?
I was just going to mention if folks would like to hear an incredibly powerful song, and I know we can't play it or else we get in trouble with YouTube and all
But
that.
you could certainly sing it.
No, I could not sing it. But my friend Jana Sandfield wrote a song, and interestingly enough, she pitched it to Reba. And the name of the song is "If I Had Only Known." And between the time that Reba, they don't buy the song, but that's kind of they confirm that they're going to be the artist that does the song. So you have to, before you can pitch it to anybody else, Reba put a hold on it and did it. And then between the time that Reba accepted the song and recorded it is when the plane crash happened that killed all of Reba's band.
Oh, God.
And it is the most powerful, powerful song. But my friend Jana also sings it. I always think there's something about when the songwriter sings the song, there's more something there. So check out Jana Stanfield, If I Had Only Known. And it's on YouTube. And
Scott, did you not know that Jana and I have been dear friends for many, many years?
No.
How about Jana has come to my acting studio here in Dallas live, not just online, and done concerts for my students.
No, her voice is it's just heartbreaking.
It's heavenly.
It's so incredible. She is such a wonderful
person. You must have met Jan on the speaker circuit.
Yeah, I've known Jan.
Yeah, she's very active, and she works her music into her new age material, and Jan is the greatest.
She's terrific.
Yeah,
and that is called an ascot.
I should have known the name of a cap if it's Ask Scott.
Yes, let's ask Scott what it's called. Let's ask Scott, shall we? What's it called, Scott?
You say that?
Let's ask Scott.
An ascot cap.
Oh my God,
that's funny.
Wow.
Well, gentlemen, this brings us to the end of yet another significant Sunday.
Awesome show, gentlemen.
And we thank you all for being a part of it, not only tonight, but those of you who watch us every Sunday. And we've been here every Sunday since Easter. So thank you for that. Thank you for your love and support.
Thank you all. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, this week's resident tip. Want to give a little resident plug.
Yeah.
This week's resident, because COVID has slowed down production, obviously for not only our show, but all shows. It's taking longer to make each episode now because of the provisions. As a result, they needed to buy a little time for the network. So they're doing a rerun this week, and they're going to jump back to the first episode of the season, which is the wedding episode.
Yeah. So last week they said in 2 weeks on the resident,
right.
Yeah.
So just know that if you want another shot at seeing the wedding episode, it was a beautiful episode, and that will be this Tuesday night on the Resident, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific. Awesome. Tuesday night on Fox. Tuesday. All right, gents, you want to take us out there, Scotto?
You betcha. Thanks, everybody. We will see you next week, which will be the last day of the month. We'll be wrapping up February in style on the next edition. The Ken and Glenn Show with a guy named Scott. Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you soon.
See you guys. Have a great week.